Hey Ryan, how's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing, bud?
Good thing.
Hey, Ryan.
What's
Man,
up,
this is
Ryan?
going to get confusing. We got Ryan, and Brian.
This episode of Bourbon Pursuit is made possible through listeners like you, supported through Patreon, and with partnerships brought to you by the following. Danner has been making boots for 85 years for the unforgiving Pacific Northwest. Their Stronghold series is inspired by hikers, but built for the toughest working conditions. Order online or find your local store at danner.com. Hey everyone, if all goes as planned, this is going to be the last episode featuring our old logo. So look for the new logo that'll be coming out real soon on all the favorite social media channels, Facebook, website, everywhere. So look forward to that. Tomorrow, if you're bored, I am going to be doing a live review of Old Carter. This is a bottle that has been recently released. We talk about it towards the end of this podcast. I really hope I don't like it because it was like $170. It's an NDP from NGP, non-age stated. It's got pretty much all the reasons why you shouldn't buy a bottle on it, but I bought it to be able to hopefully prove a point, and so you can look towards the live review that'll happen tomorrow on Facebook, so get ready for that. We finally have our barrel in from the community roundtable. We got a lot of bottles. We've got the entire barrel. My basement is stocked full of them, but now it's time for putting on our awesome stickers as well as to begin shipping them out. We're also going to be doing Bourbon Pursuit etched Glencairns with a new logo on it. So you can always add that to your order. So if you received an email saying that from Patreon saying that you can now go ahead and purchase your bottle, please get me your money. Thank you so much for everybody that already has. But now that we've already paid for the barrel, let's go ahead and let's get it in your hands and start drinking, right? This episode touches on the recent release of Neat the Bourbon Movie, the less than stellar, incredibly overaged bourbon that has made its way out. We discuss practices by Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board setting their lottery prices at secondary prices, and our thoughts on the new Old Fitzgerald release, and we wonder if NDPs that source from MGP being over $100 is becoming the new norm. As well, I kind of go on a little bit of a rant. With that, enjoy this week's episode, and make sure you also support the podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/Bourbon Pursuit. That's how you get access to these private barrels that we're going to begin doing. We also have a lot of cool new items that are going to be coming through, such as bottle tote bags and even patches. So a lot of cool stuff that's coming through. Make sure you're helping us on Patreon. Make sure you're following us on all those great social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @Bourbon Pursuit. Again, enjoy this week's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit Podcast, the official podcast of bourbon. Tonight we have the 18th edition of the Bourbon Community Roundtable. It's always a crowd favorite. And tonight we've got a great lineup of questions that we have lined up for everybody. This is something that has been hot topics inside of the bourbon world of the past few weeks. So I'm glad that we're going to have our variable pick of people here to talk about it. So Ryan, how's it going, man? We haven't had a recording here in a few weeks. So how you been?
I know I gotta get back in the groove. I'm excited for this when we got the Ryan Brian episode. A lot of
tongue twisters. So with that, let's go ahead and we'll introduce a new addition to the community roundtable. So Carrie is not going to be able to join us tonight, and this is what happens: is that if somebody is not able to make it, we find some new blood to bring to it. So tonight we have Ryan Lentz. So Ryan, welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, pull me out of the bullpen. I like it.
Yeah. So kind of give everybody an idea of where you blog at and topics you touch on and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, so I run a website called thebourbonbuddy.com. Mostly reviews, but also do some chat, some bourbon banter, talks, etc. Posted recently about OKI and their, new riff and OKI and that going away, and talking about how that transition is going to go to a 12-year, stuff that you've talked about in Bourbon Pursuit. So I'm also on Instagram and at bourbon buddy bourbon _ buddy. Sorry, and then at Twitter at bourbon _ buddy 1. I don't know who that bourbon _ buddy is. That one that
You're gonna buy him out at some point.
Yeah, I know, right? And then lastly, I'm also a member of the Cleveland Bourbon Club, and what's actually pretty cool is we're a group of 20 members, and we do blind tastings every month. And we just recently launched a website where we gave our results of these blind tastings. So it's pretty cool. I don't think anyone else or any other groups are doing something like that, where you're getting a group of 20 people and doing blinds and collecting the results and posting them online. So yeah, I would recommend checking it out. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And as everybody, or as you kind of mentioned, that it was Ryan here that gave us the tip on everything of OKI that we had talked about, I believe, on the last roundtable. So that's us.
Ironically, when we started this Burn Pursuit, I did get Bourbon Buddy.
Wanted on it. Yeah.
So, we can talk after the show, you know.
All right, I got some. I maybe have something back you might want. Great.
Good deal. So we'll start with Brian then next. So Brian, let's hear it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Excited to do it again. And so for those who haven't seen this, I'm Sippin' Corn. You can find me mostly on Twitter at Sippin' Corn and the Google blog spot of Sippin' Corn, where you get some reviews and legal history. And I have to say, stay tuned in November for Bourbon Justice, the hotly anticipated new bourbon book.
We should probably figure out a way to insert one of
That's
those.
not written by Fred.
Yeah, I was about
It's
to
not
say,
written by Fred. Yeah.
yeah, we need to figure out a way to insert one of those Law and Order, boom, right after you get, every time you get done talking. We'll figure out a way. We'll do it in post.
Excellent.
So Blake, you're up, buddy. And Blake
On me?
Ryber of Bourbon R.
Reaper.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can.
Okay. It was kind of fuzzy for a second. Just trying to make you work in the editing room. I am Blake from bourboner.com. You can find me at bourboner.com/blog. All the major social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. Yeah, check me out.
Awesome. And Nick, round it out.
And I am Nick, one of the three guys behind Breaking Bourbon. You can find us online at breakingbourbon.com and Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well at Breaking Bourbon. So glad to be here again, guys.
Awesome. So our first, we got a lot of topics to hit on. I kind of want to touch on something too, because it was recent news. Honestly, it's kind of funny that of all times, it's right now in February and March that we actually have news to talk about, which is really odd. It's usually coming around the fall and the springtime, but there's actually been a lot of things that have been happening recently. The first one was the release of the new film called Neat. It was really focused on the bourbon expert, I should say the people that are out there that are really heavy into bourbon and want to know more from some of the voices behind it. Really focused a lot on Marianne Barnes and Freddie Johnson of Buffalo Trace. They had some pretty big spotlights and cameos in there. I kind of want to get everybody's thoughts on the movie. I'll kind of go first. I liked it. It was a really cool way to picture how people are getting into bourbon. At sometimes, when I just think of the production value is really good. The editing I thought was a little weird. It was kind of like one of those 3-minute montages that lasted for 70 minutes because there was a lot of cutaways, a lot of pours, a lot of panning the rick houses. That was just okay, you got to keep it interesting. I get that, but there's a lot of overdubbed music and like I said, it felt like
cuts.
Yeah, it felt like a 3-minute montage that lasted 70 minutes, but it was still really cool. A lot of great information that came from it too. So anybody else want to chime in on that?
I can go next. Like you said, the production value was outstanding. I mean, it was very well shot. The footage was awesome. It was a little bit too, I guess, elementary for me. I was looking for something more, I guess bourbon geeks appeal to us more. It was kind of more, it seemed like geared towards people that know absolutely nothing about bourbon. And so it was kind of like going on a bourbon tour for like the 30th time for me, but it was very good production value. And I think it's good for people just getting into bourbon. But for me, I was kind of looking for more, I guess.
Yeah, I did put this in my post. I had one. If you actually, has the Wade Woodard post run or the Bourbon Pursuit episode run yet, where he gets questions?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well,
thanks for paying attention to our release calendar.
Yeah. There's a release calendar, but anyway, so I will make one note, which you'll probably touch on in that episode as well, as bourbon doesn't have to be made out of new American white oak, which is a common misconception. It just is oak, charred oak, new charred oak. So they did get that, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was a great way to get a lot of people excited about bourbon. And like everyone else said, the production value was really good. It was entertaining, as entertaining as a bourbon documentary can be. So I thought that was good. And it was like everywhere. I mean, I had people sending it to me who, I talked to about bourbon once and they never drank bourbon their entire life and would email it to me, say, hey, have you seen this? So it was cool to see, it get a lot of people into bourbon. And actually, I feel like it's just been in production forever. So just the fact that it actually made it, and I'm getting an email in like
that's true.
2015, and I'm sure we all get those emails of, "Hey, man, I'm working on this project. I know you're in bourbon. Do you want to write about it?" And to see one of them actually come to life and get a really good release, that was pretty cool to see. So
if you don't mind, I'd like to add, this is Ryan Lentz, the other Ryan. I thought it was great. It's absolutely mandatory that you drink a glass of bourbon while you're watching it. I mean, if you don't just drink water with that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I really like it. And instantly, like right after I watched it, it really like shows the romance and the coolness of aged spirits and stuff. And I instantly, after I stopped watching, I'm like, I gotta send this to my friends that are like kind of on the borderline. Like they come over and they drink some of my bourbon when they're there, but don't really understand it and really don't understand, all of the uniqueness that's around it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, I'd say I thought what was interesting was, I don't know if it's just the documentaries I'm kind of drawn to, but they all kind of seem to have an air of, uncovering some kind of conspiracy or, there's just something, that, is something you don't really know, or, they're trying to do this different take on something. I feel like what's cool about Neat was it was really just kind of an artistic, just, we're going to show you bourbon, what it's all about. I do think it was, certainly the person that didn't know anything about bourbon could take a lot away from it. The person who knew a lot already, I mean, I get that a lot of that stuff was kind of repeated, but I just think it really made you feel in touch with bourbon. And I mean, it made you want to go grab a glass of bourbon. And if you weren't a bourbon drinker to start, I think by the end of the movie, you're thinking, I want to give this a try, which is fantastically successful at that. And it's well received too. Everybody seems to like it so far, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's the first one that's really broken through. I mean, for I guess Kenny will know this, and Ryan, here we've got the public television KET that has probably 6 or 7 bourbon documentaries that they play every now and again, and they go back probably. I mean, one of them looks like it must be in the 80s. I mean, you've got Bill Samuels,
VHS, like the
big bad glasses on, and women with bad 80s hair. So we were doing it back then, and this is the first one to get, I think, beyond the borders. I was involved in one probably 3 years ago called Straight Up Kentucky Bourbon, and it didn't launch really as anywhere near that Neat is launching, and it's really nice to see that it's getting this kind of reception. And I agree with what everyone said. It's probably a more basic level, but that's probably what's needed. I'll still stay tuned for the more nerdy, dorky one, but it's really good, and I'm really glad it's succeeding.
Yeah, I don't want to say I thought it was great. I really liked Bourbon Tucky, and I kind of was comparing it to that, and I think I lean more towards Bourbon Tucky was kind of more appealing to me. But they both are fantastic documentaries.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It had elementary pieces to it, but I also think bringing Steve Zahn in as a comedic relief was pretty good at times too, right? Where he's
I loved with the ale 8, when he's like, just pours it in, chugs it. That was pretty good.
Yeah. So
it was nice to see him there.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of good chat that's going on about it, but I think this is something that we could always hit on because people are talking about, did Marion get featured too much compared to anybody else? Because you think about some of the other big pundits out there, Chuck Cowdery, and everybody else that are very well known in the bourbon geek world, didn't really have any sort of any kind of scene in it, right? It was very much really focused on like 2 to 3 people, and it was really Marianne and Freddie Johnson. But they both told the story, I think, really, really well. So let's go ahead and we will move on to the next topic. And this was something that was, I guess if you're here in Louisville, you had the opportunity to get it. And it was a release for James Thompson Brothers Final Reserve 45-year-old bourbon here in Louisville. So it was quote unquote 47-year-old. It was tanked for 2 years, but there were 250 bottles, 150 released to the public. It was $1,800 plus tax. People were actually camped out in the rain for it. And this is an $1,800 bottle. It's the oldest bourbon that's ever been released. The first few of them actually sold on the secondary market for upwards of $5,000. And then the reviews came out. And this is when people actually said, because the box in itself actually had the bottle, plus it had a tasting sampler, like a little 2-ounce thing next to it. And people started cracking those open. And people said it was terrible. And so now you kind of see everything's kind of flatlined in it. So what do you guys think? Because at this point, what's the likely future and outcome of this bourbon? Because it had high expectations of being the oldest bourbon ever released. And then it kind of peaked within the matter of just hours.
Well, let me jump in first. Who in their right mind thought this was going to be good?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, are we surprised that it sucked?
Yeah. I mean, you get a Elijah Craig 18 or something that's 23, and I mean, you're already chewing wood, and I like oak. I mean, I like it fine, but 45 years is going to do bad things to a bourbon.
Yeah. And where were they even aged? I didn't read all that much on it. So, because I mean, you think about, a lot of times they talk about the 23-year-old Van Winkle barrels. A lot of them won't have anything left, or they'll have 3 gallons left or something. So they took it another 22 years, and they, still had bourbon left over. I'm sure it's proof down and everything, but yeah, I'm with Brian. Anybody who thought it was going to be something tasty, you're just fooling yourself.
I think I read that it came out around 115 proof out of the barrel.
What did they bring it down to bottle? Do you know?
I don't know off memory. I didn't read too much about it either. I did read that they were tasting it. I don't know how long they've been tasting it. It seemed like for quite a while, actually, as it was getting up there in age. So, it seems in a lot of ways that they were just trying to push the envelope on, what's the longest we can age this thing and still have it be drinkable, essentially. Because that's the novelty is really the age at the end of the day. That's the age, right. And the scarcity is going to cause everyone to want to say, what does that taste like? Because you can't just go out and find that.
There was a pretty funny quote in there by Catch 22. They said even the angels didn't want it.
Their new slogan.
Yeah.
Which, it's like if you're going to spend $5,000 on the oldest bourbon ever released, fine. That's great. If you got $5,000, spend it. But if you're spending it because you think it's going to taste good, that's just stupid to me. Like, I actually don't have a problem with people wasting money if they understand what they're buying. But if they think they're gonna sip on it on a weeknight and enjoy it, no, it's basically.
Well, didn't one sell for $7,000 that night or something on the secondary?
It might have, but at most probably only one, but nothing really. Like I said, there was a first few that went, but after that, it kind of flatlined. I kind of want to change the subject a little bit or kind of twist a little bit to Linz, can I get your idea? Like, where do you think that this is now that the reviews are out? Now, do you really think like this could possibly hold its value, grow in value? Because there's not going to be another one like it, as far as I can see, for quite some time.
Yeah, it's hard to age it that long. Yeah. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, and it was packaged this way, it's a collector's piece. I mean, you have the bottle and then they give you a little sample bottle. So that's just already going of, okay, they're going to collect and hold on to the bottle. But if they want a little taste, they can, keep that little side. But then my question would be, if you take a sip of that little sample, are you then decreasing the value of their overall package? You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it will it flooded the market. So right now it's kind of, people are seeing reviews and they're thinking it, but again, there's only how many packages, 250 or something like that?
Yeah. 150 went to public. I have no idea what they're going to do the other 100. I know there was a tasting that was done with Bill Thomas at Jack Rose and that night, and some people were invited. You paid like $100 a ticket to go and sample it. I didn't hear anybody that said good out of that either.
Yeah. No, I think that right now the market's flooded and it's gone down a little bit, but it'll probably creep back up. It's a collector's piece, and people that collect will want that bottle.
The same people with that box behind you, the chessmen, probably said the same thing, way back in the day. That'll never sell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, what is it? It's there's poison in it because it's,
Lead.
Yeah. The lead. Yeah. The lead. I've drank enough of it. I'm good still.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
He glows in the dark, but overall.
So what do you guys kind of see as because this is not done. There's actually more releases that are coming. They actually have plans for releasing a 43-year, also a 41-year bourbon. I guess they wanted to start off with a bang and just do their biggest one. Where do you guys kind of see, like, do you think like maybe this will end people camping out, or do you think people are just going to keep taking along and just buy it and try to flip it because it's easy money for some people?
Forgive me for the ignorance, but who the hell makes this? That like, where's this whiskey coming from?
It's like the Jack Rose family, whatever, right?
I have no idea. I didn't read any press releases for it. All I know, it says James Thompson and Brother Final Reserve.
I believe that it's from Glenmore Distillery from way back in the day.
Yep.
Okay.
Which Glenmore became
Heaven Hill? No.
Was it?
No,
this is where we look to you.
Saz, I think it's Owensboro, Glenmore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of Sazerac's. They don't distill there, but storage, I think. I don't know.
We'll have to Google that one.
They went out of business, I thought.
Yeah, they definitely went out of business.
Do they bottle it at 115 proof? No, they don't have the proof on the front of the bottle from what I see, unless it's really small.
It's on the side of the bottle.
So that'd be interesting, though. Something that old, usually you have to proof them down to, around 90 to kind of deal with those, those oak flavors.
Well, and some magic filtering. I mean, it's some of like the older orphan barrels that you can tell have just had all the heart filtered out of them.
So the Thompson family maintained control until 1991. Guinness, Shinley, United went through that whole Sazerac purchased the Barton Distillery. Hold on, is Glenmore Barton? Is that right?
No.
No, but that does.
Glenmore is a vodka.
That's where I was coming from.
It's now a bottling plant.
Yeah.
And then they started again in 2016 distilling rum. So it's under the Sazerac brand. So what's the Sazerac rums, like Sailor Jerry or something?
We all sound like experts right now.
Yeah. We're getting really into the weeds on this.
Yeah, really.
I claim to know everything.
But you gotta wonder though if having that sample bottle was
if it helped or hurt the value.
So it helped or hurt the value. Sorry, I got an ad and my browser just popped up and it's making tons of noise here. You got to wonder if that's going to hurt them for the future releases.
I mean, if you have people camping out, I doubt they're going to be sitting on a shelf 2 months from now anyways. So
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at what Michner's did with Celebration. I mean, if they would have put a sample bottle on that, no one's going to buy it after the first couple of $5,000 go. And yeah, that's a risky move given that sample bottle.
It is.
Well, I think that's a little bit different. I think the Michter Celebration is a different animal than this, right? Like, I think you can actually drink Michter Celebration. Like, it's actually probably pretty tasty. Never tried it myself because I'm still waiting for my free bottle to come in the mail. But it's something that I'm sure that you're not going to be like, oh, spit this out. Like, it's sour. You're not going to do it. It tastes like you're chewing on a toothpick or something.
Sure. I feel pretty strongly that it doesn't matter what it tastes like. It's some of the oldest bourbon, even the ones that are coming that are a little bit younger. It's limited edition in a very small quantity, and there's never been 40-year-old bourbons before. People will buy it, and it will increase value in the secondary market.
You think it'll increase over time?
Yeah. But like you said earlier, I mean, where's another 40-year-old bourbon going to pop up, right? I mean, who else has
it'll definitely maintain for sure. I just don't see it dropping out. I think it maybe be closer like one of the old Jim Beam Distiller Masterpiece bottles where there's very few of them out there, but they don't really skyrocket like stitzel-weller stuff, but they just kind of maintain a strong value.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think the key is too, people have to know about it. In 5 years from now, if people are new to it, even if they have money and interest, they don't really know what it is. I mean, just looking at that bottle, the front of the bottle, you wouldn't necessarily know what that is. You'd scan right by it. So it's not like a Pappy Van Winkle or something like that. Everyone knows the name. They want it. They don't know really what it is, but they want it. A lot of cases, this is, you kind of got to do a little research to figure out what it is. So are people going to do that in 5 years? Is it going to be strong enough?
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll move on a little bit. There's a few good comments that I kind of want to put in here. Kevin Snow said, I'm still waiting for their 80-year rye.
That'd be good.
Yeah. And then Catch 22 comes again. Man, he's on fire tonight. He said their new marketing campaign should be, our bourbon is ready when it's ready. So
Well said.
Yeah, well said. So I'm going to skip one and kind of move to the next one. Is the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board? This is a state-run institution that really you can only get allocated bourbon in Pennsylvania through their online website, and it's the only way that you can get basically anything is through since it's all government ran. And they do an online lottery now for a lot of their allocated bourbons. And in their last one, I guess they had some random Booker's Rye still sitting around. And they priced their Booker's Rye at their online lottery in a state-controlled, government-ran liquor system at $600, which is right in line with secondary. And when they asked about it, it was actually published on the forums that somebody responded back that they are looking at secondary prices and pricing them accordingly. I found it amazing. Brian, I kind of look at you and say, is this legal?
Yeah, it's legal. And I think Denny Potter was on the record this week saying that Heaven Hill looks at secondary prices in looking at it. We all know Willett has started to look at secondary prices. And when the producer comes out with a suggested retail price, that's really all it is a suggestion. It's what they want you to sell it for. And it's not, I mean, people use the word gouging, and I've used the word gouging, but legally, from a legal standpoint, you can't gouge on bourbon prices. The gouging really only applies if you jack up the price of gas during a hurricane when Blake's leaving Florida. You can't charge more for
Blake
gas.
would never leave Florida.
Yeah, that's price gouging. You can't price gouge on bourbon. You can't price gouge on Final Four tickets or Super Bowl
price
tickets.
Gouging a Ferrari,
it's something that people don't need, so you can charge whatever the market bears. And Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board is just being a market participant here. It's unfortunate. And when I go to a store that I see an Elijah Craig barrel proof going for $300, I'm not going to go back to that store. I'm going to go to where I can get it at its suggested retail price or right about there. So consumers if consumers cannot buy it, then, let's not do that, and the prices will come down. But they'll go as high as people will accept, and I'm sure they sold out of their remaining Booker's Rye at $600 in a flash.
So I guess there's a problem with that though, right? Is we have the ability to sit there and say, I'll go to another store. For residents of Pennsylvania, it's their entire state. It's their entire state. And so it's kind of confusing to me that this is sort of how it's run. I always thought it was good to kind of be in some of these control states because they usually follow MSRP. Yeah. And this is the first instance that we've seen somebody actually come out and say that they are pricing it according to secondary market prices.
Yeah, and I actually, I applaud the economist / free market in me kind of applauds these people who say, hey, if we can get more, we can get more. I think it's stupid if you overprice it because it's just sitting on a shelf. So, you could sell it a whole lot faster, buy more inventory, sell that, buy more inventory, So if they don't do that, but, if you can get $300 for a bottle or $600 for it, that's what the market's dictating. You kind of got to balance that out with customer loyalty and everything else. My problem with it was Pennsylvania, as far as I can remember, is the only state that has actually prosecuted somebody selling Pappy on Craigslist.
Yep.
And that part to me was just like the most hypocritical thing ever. Like, how are you going to say, hey, here's the terms, here's the market we are trying to adhere to, but if you participate in that market, we're going to arrest you. And that was just stupid to me. And they even said, try to put in there, well, basically we're trying to make as much money for the government as possible because it funds all these other things. That was kind of the lotto reasoning here in Florida, a decade or so ago. Well, the lottery system funds school programs, so that's why we're okay with it, even though we're against gambling, but lottery's okay. So that whole hypocritical standpoint on the secondary was the biggest thing for me.
And it's a lottery too, so it's not they're going secondary pricing and they're saying put your name into the hat to be able to buy it for that price, which Pennsylvania too, they have laws like you can't bring any liquor in. You can't bring anything into Pennsylvania. If you get caught with it and it's come in from outside, you can get whatever the repercussion of that is. They confiscated, you're fined, arrested, whatever. Right. So here's a state that really controls its liquor very, very strongly and says that it's for the good of the people, that they're in control of all this. And then here they are, which, how much are they going to make? What do they have? 20 bottles, 30 bottles? I don't know what the bottle count is, but is that really that big of a deal to them as far as money? You got to put in for a lottery. At least give it to the people for a reasonably fair price or close to MSRP. This could actually be the start of them shooting themselves in the foot. The whole idea is, hey, we're still bringing it to the people. We're doing these fair lotteries. They're able to get it for MSRP. Well, now suddenly it's, well, hey, we're charging as high a price as the guy in New York City, who has the market for it and, is actually a participant in a free market. And here we are, the state, we have full control over everything everybody drinks, or at least we want to, and we're going to charge that high price. And you have to be in a lottery for it. Lou Bryson might have something to say about that. I know he's not a fan of the board there.
This just confirms my, without getting too political, but that you can't look to the government to do anything because they talk out of both sides of their mouth. And it's like, here you go. Here's another example why we shouldn't have the government run everything for us. But anyways, I digress.
Well, maybe with their extra money, that at least maybe the cost of stamps will quit going up. Like, I don't know.
Exactly. It's like you have to pay your tax bill, but we can't pay our bills. So, okay, fair.
Lentz, you got anything else to add to this?
No, I guess the only thing that I would find interesting is what were the restaurants and bars paying in Pennsylvania for the Booker's Rye? Like, were they paying MSRP and they were getting a cut? They were, upcharging and stuff like that. Is it just really the cost? It's, the slaughter the cattle and get the money, but the bars and the restaurants and the state we're getting all the money.
Yeah, I think somebody else brought up a good point, is that even if you buy them through Pennsylvania's Liquor Control Board, I think you still have to pay tax on it too, plus shipping, right? So, Jesus, like it's almost more of an incentive to actually go and do it illegally than it is to buy it legally from them.
Not in Pennsylvania though, because they'll get you.
Yeah,
they'll look for you. That's right.
What's interesting, not to change the topic, but you mentioned shipping. So they'll ship right inside Pennsylvania. You can get it shipped from their store, wherever, right? And so UPS, there's a special exception where they signed off on it and said, yes, you're allowed to ship inside this state, right? So it's a good case study of, it's really not, UPS or FedEx that's got the issue. It's ultimately looking for the states to say, yes, go ahead. And so Pennsylvania says, yes, we're going to go ahead and allow shipping as long as it's from us to you inside this state. Anyone else? Not allowed. You're not allowed to buy it from outside this state. You're not allowed to bring it in, right? So they've got full control over everything.
Yeah, it's soup to nuts. I mean, it really is, and it's hard to get around it. I mean, I feel bad for people that it's their only option, right? It's not an easy thing. However, Edwin Vargas chimed in and he goes, at least Pennsylvania has a shot at it. Ohio doesn't even give retail consumers a shot. So at least you don't live in Ohio. I mean, I don't know. It's a consolation prize. I don't know what to tell you, but you can try to. Yeah,
Can you
I don't know.
still have an address in Pennsylvania?
I got credit cards and billing addresses up there. All right, so we'll kind of move on to the next topic. So Heaven Hill is releasing their new Old Fitz bottled and bond decanter set. It's a beautiful bottle. It started making its way around the forums. I actually got to see a picture on Snapchat from somebody I know. So they were actually printing off the labels at one point. So I got to see that, which was pretty cool. And then actually finally putting on one of the first bottles. It is going to be priced at around $100. It is I think it's an 11-year-old wheated bourbon. So think of older Larceny, maybe. Yep. Big question is, will you buy it at $100? Gun to your head. What are you going to do? This episode of Bourbon Pursuit is made possible through listeners like you, supported through Patreon, and with partnerships brought to you by the following. We're not fortune tellers, but when you lace up your new Stronghold work boots, it's easy to see the future does look strong. Danner has been making boots for 85 years for the unforgiving Pacific Northwest. This means Danner boots come with deep roots, and the new Stronghold work boot does just that. This is what happens when you take iconic quality and run it into modern technology. You get tomorrow's classic today. Get into the Stronghold for strength that starts right from where you stand. Order online or find your local store at danner.com. That's DANNER.com. Heaven Hill is releasing their new Old Fitz bottled and bond decanter set. It's a beautiful bottle. It started making its way around the forums. I actually got to see a picture on Snapchat from somebody I know. So they were actually printing off the labels at one point. So I got to see that, which was pretty cool. And then actually finally putting on one of the first bottles. It is going to be priced at around $100. It is I think it's an 11-year-old wheated bourbon. So think of older Larceny, maybe. Yep. Big question is, will you buy it at $100? Gun to your head. What are you going to do?
I don't think that's a question for anyone in this group. I think everyone is buying at $100.
Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're suckers.
How much it goes up to that we're still buying. I mean, that's a really cool bottle. There's a big history behind it. Obviously, it's tastes probably nothing like the bourbon that was in the original bottles that look like that, but still really cool. I feel like $100 pretty in line with today's market, especially what they're putting out with the Parker's Heritage Collection. So, I'll grab them. It's 100 proof, right?
Yes, it's a bottled and bond release.
It is bottled and bond release, yeah. So, I would
it's a beautiful decanter. You can't get around it, right? I mean, it's going to be really hard to put it on the shelf next to other things. It's going to,
I mean, I spent $400 on a 375 of the Johnny Fitzgerald.
20 years.
The 20 years. It's pretty good bourbon, but it's not earth shattering or anything. So, but that's today's bourbon market. So we'll see.
And if I saw correctly, there's going to be upwards of. It was actually on a. If anybody wasn't paying attention, there was a Reddit AMA today with Denny Potter, and he stated I think there's upwards of 17,000 bottles in this first release. So get ready for that. I think
so you can get it.
Yeah,
it'll be released twice a year, from what I understand. So think about 30,000 bottles at least a year. That should be plenty to go around.
So I'll get it, no doubt, and I hope to get a couple. But isn't this the same thing as Rebel Yell 10-year, which I really like? And it was 50. I think this year they're raising it up to 60. But it's essentially the same thing. I mean, I guess it's not a single barrel, but it's 10-year wheated bourbon from Heaven Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the same thing is out there.
Rebel Yell really missed their market with they just put it in that little box. They should have done something fancier. And
a little fake cardboard box. I mean, I think what we'll see next year is Rebel Yell at Rebel Yell 10-year at $100.
I like Rebel Yell. I like Rebel Yell at that price. I like to see something value like that kind of snuck in under the radar a little bit. And, I think they were going to get their name out there and, what they want to get people behind them. They could have priced that at $99 and so it would have been good, but you could have been hearing crickets like, what's Rebel Yell doing? Who are these guys? But I think they came out right. Now I see that name and they earn a lot of respect from me from doing that. So now I'm going to pay attention to them.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going to have a really nice glass cork, which will value it at, $60 at least.
At least.
Well, and there's the tax strip on there. So that's like the throwback of the Dusties, man. I mean, come on.
Anything with a tax strip automatically jumps $50.
Or if you put wax on it, a wax on it, or especially white.
But I got to ask you this.
A hint at any current releases that you know?
I got to ask for all you guys, though. Somebody asks you, somebody asked me this a couple weeks ago. They said, I got to get a gift for somebody. He likes bourbon. What's like a really good $100 bottle that I can go buy?
This would be
I'm thinking like, where can you even buy a $100 bottle right now? I'm trying to think what's even available at retailers for $100 in my area, and there's just not a lot there. Right. So, I mean, the market is thin right there, and there's people who want to spend that much money just because they, whether they're gifting it or they just want to feel like they're getting something more premium, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced that's the entire reason why we have the Orphan Barrel lineup is because people go to the store and think, I want to buy like $100 bottle, that and Blood Oath. It's like, I want to buy a $100 bottle for a friend or a gift or something. It's like, well, these are cool packaging and it's $100, so it must be good. So
it's got a killer story.
It's got a picture of a fox and a deer on it that are fighting. We got to have that, right? Yeah.
The bottle just looks good. So it's like, looks good. Cost more than $100. Yep. They're gonna,
so
it's got to be good.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean,
expense account.
Yeah. But I mean, do you guys really think that this is one of those bottles that'll be? Let's think about it. So, Orphan Barrels, they had their time in the sun for a solid year, where they kind of flew up the shelves, and then now you can kind of see them everywhere. Like nobody's jumping on that train anymore. They've kind of I don't know if they've rubbed people the wrong way or anything like that, but you don't see a lot of people just going out trying to buy a bunch of Orphan Barrels. Do you think this could see the same exact fate where, yeah, sure, the first release, maybe the second release, it'll fly off the shelves. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, if you're going to keep doing this as a regular thing, like it's going to continually be a shelf bottle.
I think
they might want it to be a shelf bottle. Sorry, Ryan.
Oh, no, I think it'll be different because the Old Fitz name is like, I don't know, it just resonates with people. And the package is like timeless. I don't know. Whereas the Orphan Barrels are kind of like newer. I don't know. I think it'll do better than the Orphan Barrels. And it's Heaven Hill. It's not it's not some random Tuscaloosa or wherever Tuluma place that these random barrels show up.
Yeah, Tuscaloosa.
It's all stories and marketing.
Yeah,
Savings down there bottling bourbon.
that's right.
Can I actually ask a question that I have for the group, and I'm guessing some of the viewers have? So
No, this is my show. Get away. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, Heaven Hill, right? They have this weeded bourbon. They have Old Fitz. They have Rebel Yell. That's then, the brand's owned by Luxco. And then they have, that's it. Yeah. So, Larceny. So is it all the same mash bill and all aged in the same warehouses within Heaven Hill and just distributed and branded differently? Or does Luxco move the Rebel Yell stuff to a different, rick house anywhere? Is it just all the same and just aged at, regular Old Fitz is more like 4 years and Larceny's more like 5 years?
Larceny's like 6 to 8. Old Fitz is like 4 years. And then Rebel Yell is, yes, aged at Heaven Hill and bottled in St. Louis currently. But now Luxco will be opening here soon and starting to make their own. But yeah.
So it's just aged. It's all aged in the same area. There's just different brands and aged in different times.
Exactly. It's kind of like Elijah. So you have Evan Williams, Elijah Craig, and Henry McKenna are all the same mash bill, but different ages and proofs. So, and different brands.
Do they have dedicated warehouses? You know how like Buffalo Trace has whatever it is, warehouse H specifically for Blanton's. Do they do that for any of their brands, or is it kind of all over the place?
It's for Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. I mean, you can get an Elijah Craig that's in Deatsville, or you can get one that was aged in Bardstown.
Do they do their weeded mash bill all over, or do they keep that weeded?
I don't know about the weeded.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
I guess we should have asked that to
Denny when we need him.
Yeah, I should have asked that to Denny on Reddit earlier. Yeah. So I guess another question is, there's a pretty much a staple here in Kentucky. We talk about the Heaven Hill bottled and bond 6 year. That's always that white label. Mm-hmm. However, there's always one that's kind of right next to it, and that's just the Old Fitz. There's the Old Fitz one that's just a regular label. They've got some squat bottles laying around. They've got some cognac style bottles that are around. You got the green label. You got the red label. You think this is going to have any effect on those? Because this is, don't get me wrong, this is what they consider like lower tier. That's always in the sort of bottom shelf because it's a $16, $18 bottle, if that. Like, what do you think is the detriment, or like, what do you think could possibly happen to that if it's going to suffer some sort of brand shaming, or are people still going to stay loyal to it? Who knows?
I think there's a good possibility it's going to lift the brand. If you're seeing something that looks similar, it's got a similar name, similar look, to some extent you can relate the two for $100 on the shelf. It looks premium. It's a fantastic bottle. You might start to take notice of those lower tier ones and say, maybe I'll give that a shot.
What they're going to be like, you're going to be like Pappy and Weller's, kind of like that.
Yeah, think about Weller. Look at the three Wellers. Weller Special Reserve gets just siphoned right up with the other two. We've talked about that a bunch of times, and I think it's very possible, not in the exact same situation, but I think it could lift it or at least get it on people's radar.
Yeah, and it's really the lesson from Rebel Yell. Which we already talked about, I know, but Rebel Yell was as bottom shelf as you could get. And then they tried about 4 years ago Rebel Reserve, which was supposed to be 6 years, and it was still horrible. Bad stuff. And now with the 10 year, they've really lifted the entire brand, and they're trying new and edgy things with their lower shelf brands. And all of Rebel Yell is up now. Sales are up because of the 10 year, and you're associating the lower shelf brands with the great 10 year.
Yeah. I'm just surprised it's taken them this long to like capitalize on that name. Like, you bought this brand, from stitzel-weller and did nothing with it essentially, except change the name to Larceny and try to make it your own, which Larceny's done well, but it's surprised. I guess they finally realized that stitzel-weller is so huge on this, from the secondary market that, hey, now we can capitalize on it So
I don't know about that. I think it's a two-way street, right? Because when you look at, we are the I'd say 5%ers of the bourbon market, right? Like we know the history of Old Fitz, like we know what it means to the bourbon realm, the bourbon community, and kind of like what the history of stitzel-weller, like their target market in larceny is the other 95% of people, right? Like that is mainstream. That is everyday consumers. They don't care about history. They just want a delicious bourbon to drink. And so I don't necessarily think that. And not only that is when you look at the packaging, you look at the name, you have to think of it is a marketing thing at the end of the day. You get somebody that's just now turning like 23 years old. You want them to go like get into bourbon and like think about they want to like it. And you're like, here, try this bottle of Old Fitz. They're like, what the hell is like my grandpa would drink that, right? And then he's like, here's this bottle of Larson. He's got a sweet key on the front of it. You're like, yeah, I can get on top of that one, right? So I don't know. I mean, any other thoughts, within the Old Fitz and the sweet packaging before we move on to the next topic? Whiskey Wonka said, because we said that to be about 17,000 bottles. We said it might be pretty easy to find. He said, well, there was apparently 30,000 stags, and I still couldn't find one. So
very true.
Yeah, they did a good job hiding those.
I'm still not. I mean, that should be a topic at one point. Looking at, like, I had 3 or 4 state allocations that I was looking at, maybe more than that. 30,000 bottles did not come out. I don't know where they went, but I don't know. That's a little more conspiracy theory, but I still don't think there were 30.
I think the liquor stores did a good job keeping
They're in
them
Pennsylvania.
off the shelves, going through their list.
You got like 120 bottles,
they did.
unless they were just lying and they're holding on to a bunch of them too. But
yeah, I like Ryan. Pennsylvania's holding on to them to see whether the secondary market's going to level off and then get rid of them.
Yeah, that's just in $600 in the Pennsylvania lottery.
Oh man. All right, so we're going to move on to another subject, and we got him on the chat. This is a good subject by Wade Woodard, and it's something that is becoming a new norm. And this is the $100 NDP, and most of these NDPs are from MGP. I think 2 years ago we used to scuff at the prices that are coming out, thinking that how could you possibly sell an NDP bourbon for $100? And think that we're going to be okay with it or people are going to buy it. But now you got things like Mic Drop that are coming out. You've got things like Old Carter that are coming out, which I actually have right behind me. So I pulled a tater move and bought one. I'll explain why in a little bit. But you got to keep this in perspective that a bottle of Stag is $89. So do you guys really think that $100 NDP MGPs are the new norm now?
I think it's fine. Because they're like 12-year bourbons, and it's hard to find 12-year good bourbons. And so I don't know. I think at $100, at least you can. I don't know. I think it's a good value, or not value, but you know what I'm saying. Like Weller 12 you can't get, so you can find these MGPs that are good. I don't know. I think it's not a bad thing.
But I mean, you're talking $100, right? $100 for a bottle, and that's what was considered super premium category. I think it still possibly is when you look at the sales, because the average bottles of bourbon are somewhere between like $20 and $40, right? And so when you see all these that are coming out that are just $100 and they're all sourced from the same stuff, it's just a new label. I mean, is this just a way to kind of just trick consumers? Or is this a way to sit there and try to make a few extra bucks because now you can buy a few barrels and throw it at the market?
I think it's a mix. I think people are going to get what they pay for. So, as these new bottles come out, people are paying for them. There's going to be more of them that come out. So ultimately it's on the consumer because people are buying them. If they sat on shelves, there wouldn't be a new brand every other month that is coming out with, sourced MGP products. So, and it just kind of, people always want to try something new, even though it's coming from the exact same distillery. A lot of times in the same age range, it's something new and different, and usually has a little bit of a taste if you can kind of trust the person that's blending them. So I think it's just all about being new and kind of staying ahead of the customer a little bit.
I think it kind of depends what you're buying and, who put that together. We were just talking about the old Fitz $110. That's coming right from a, well-known distillery. Look, MGP is a well-known distillery. So the stuff coming out of there is coming from a good distillery, just like Heaven Hill's a good distillery. So then you say, okay, well, is it somebody's release that's $50 a bottle or $100 a bottle? Well, what are they doing? What are they putting in that $100 bottle? Are you buying the revitalization of a brand and, packaging and that kind of thing? Or are you buying, something that somebody really carefully went through and selected barrels and, maybe blended, and spent some extra time putting something together that's better. And I think that's where it gets tricky, and that's where it gets tough. And $100 a bottle is, you can't just buy them all. So I think that's where people look to see what other people are thinking. That's why they're looking to reviews and other people's thoughts on social media and things like that to figure out if they're worthwhile going after or not. And there's some good ones and there's some bad ones.
Lentz, you've been quiet over there. I'm waiting for you to chime in.
Yeah, so I was the one actually over in the summer that purchased the Mic Drop, which is MGP 8-year cast strength. I know it got a lot of hype and people loved it. Personally, it wasn't for me. Kind of a lesson learned that, maybe these blends of MGPs really aren't for me. However, I do think that when you get to the MGP and you get to these single barrel cast strength selections, kind of like going back in the day when Smooth Ambler had the old Scout picks, like there's places that are doing 10, 11, 12, even 13-year-old MGP single barrel cast strengths. And I think that's where the value really is trying to find a good barrel, a really tasty barrel, where you're getting your bang for your buck. That's where I focus my as a consumer.
Yeah, I'm right with Ryan. The two Ryans think alike. I'm right there with him.
So as Rob McCarthy says, it could be a thing of FOMO. It also is a thing that somebody else had mentioned on here that maybe we're just all suckers for marketing, or maybe we're suckers for hype. Like, so I'll kind of put it at somebody else. Like, do you think that we have, like, basically somebody's going to post it somewhere and be like, oh, this stuff's awesome. And the first thing in thought in mind is, well, I don't have that bottle. I think I need to go get it. Right. Like, what's your thought process behind that?
I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's
We're definitely going to see that. I mean, it's just the state of where we are now, right? You want to get it before everyone else grabs it and you can't. But, I think then, again, it gets back to trying to figure out what you're actually buying and if it's really going to be that good or not, and how much, cash do you have to spend on $100 bottles?
That's been happening to me since I was 8 years old when somebody had the Reebok pumps and I didn't have them. You're like, I got to have
what you're going to say with bourbon.
Yeah,
I got the Reebok BMXs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a FOMO moment for a lot of people, and it's really because the market's still growing. I mean, we're still getting people into the bourbon market, and they're having this oh shit moment of I got to get that.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I've got a room full of bourbon, and I didn't buy Mic Drop, and I'm not looking at these other ones, and I'm not worried about missing out on a MGP. And until more people are not worried about it, 100 is the new norm. I mean, the old $25 bottle of Weller 12, that's the old 25 is now 50, and the old 50 is now 100, and now we're not thinking twice about paying $300 for a Willet, and we're talking about all these prices going up, and it's really the new norm until the market starts leveling off.
Brandon Griffiths kind of had a good point. He said, look at the old Smooth Ambler, old Scout bottles. And so you look at this as saying, well, what's possibly that next SAOS release, right? So is it Mic Drop? Is it, Boone County? Is it OKI? Is it any of these things?
For sure.
Nobody really knows at this point, right?
So you want to get it. You want to get it in case you land on it.
Right.
I mean, that Boone County that you brought over, Kenny, was like one of the best things I had in a while. That was really good. I mean, a 12-year MGP. It was fantastic. I'd pay $100 for that all day.
Yeah. And then Robert Daly had something else to say. He said, watch MGP be like the new stitzel-weller. All these up and coming distilleries that are actually using them are going to have to switch over to their own distillate at some point, and their MGP bottlings are going to be becoming possibly more valuable, right? So who knows what that progress is going to be like? You look 5 to 10 years down the road.
For sure.
Yeah. If all smooth amblers taste like contradiction, I mean, we're all going to be paying $500 for the Old Scouts.
I'm glad that you said it, because I was never a fan of contradiction either.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It wasn't there for me.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So I guess kind of like to kind of cap this sort of topic off, when you look at it, is it more or less curiosity when you're looking at these different MGPs that are at $100? Or, I mean, do you really think that any of them are even worth over 50? And do you think that you have to really vet it out first before you do it? Or do you think this is somebody that's, as I said, just slapping a label on it, trying to take advantage of the market? Whereas there are some other MGPs out there that aren't at $100, and maybe you can get them close around the $50 range.
I would answer that question with a question, which is, are the majority of people buying those, do they know they're basically coming from the same place? Who's that market?
I think we've always brought it on the show before, is that you've got to be conscious of the label and be able to read it and know exactly where it's coming from. However, most people don't really care. They see a sweet label, they understand some story, and maybe that's just what they buy. I don't know.
Yeah, and what percentage of the market is looking at the label and understanding what they're buying? Is that 5%? Is that 40%? Where does that fall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of going back to the single barrel about these MGPs, I really think when you look at the market, where else are you going to get a single barrel cask strength bourbon? Knob Creek, maybe some recipes of Four Roses, but outside of that, if you're looking for that range of 12 plus years, single barrel cask strength, you're going to get an MGP from one of these, distilleries are starting the brands that are building themselves up. So I think that's where, if you're looking to expand and get into these MGPs, I think that's really where the value and the bang for your buck is.
And Ryan,
we're on the same wavelength. I'm thinking the same thing, my man.
Well, then I'll say this to both Ryans. Then I mean, we're what, 3 years away from the production from years ago catching up, and we're going to start having 10-year-old bourbons here pretty soon and 12-year-old bourbons pretty soon. And are we going to need MGPs?
There you go.
That's a devil's advocate there.
Yeah.
You probably not, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah. So, but get it now. But the lesson is drink it now. I mean, don't hang on to it. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. So let's move on to the last topic. We got just a few more minutes left. And this one was one of, I don't know. I found it, maybe it's just me just griping. I actually had somebody that sent me a contact and said that I've turned into a bit of a snob when I do these roundtables. And maybe that's sorry, guys.
Not just on the round tables.
It's in everyday life. I see, and it actually was all kind of stemmed from the whole Blanton's argument last time, because I didn't understand why people chase it or why they care about it. And now it was Blanton's 3 weeks ago. And then this week, I want to bring up a new one that I don't understand why people are chasing after it. And it's, I don't know, Wathans or Wathans, whatever you say. I'm going to say Wathans, but Wathans barrel proof. It seems that people are just going. You say Wathans? Is that what you say?
I say Wathans.
Oh, it's Wathans. It's Wathans.
Really? Yeah,
this is like BTAC and BTAC.
Yeah, I've met a guy who's an artist, and he's like a third generation non-distiller, and he pronounces it Wathans. So I go with Wathan.
Wow.
There you go.
My world is different now.
All right, so now we can all agree on that. Thanks for being the authority there, Brian.
Always.
So I guess I kind of want to look at you all, because honestly, like, Wathans has been around for a long time. They've had their standard shelf items that have always been there. It's been okay. It's never been something I've always wanted to go grab. It's a little bit higher on the price, even for their regular stuff. When you want to look at everyday shelf items, such as it could be Larceny, it could be Knob Creek, it could be all these different things. But then all of a sudden you see Wathan's Barrel Proof come out, and then automatically people go crazy. Is it because it's barrel proof, or is it because it's a single barrel store pick? And is that the reason why people are doing this? So I kind of want to get your all's opinions.
I think it's the store pick angle. I mean, these store picks are just taking on like mystiques of them, which I agree. Store picks are the way to go for true unicorns, but it's like crazy. Like that Weller antique store picks are like, $80, $90, $100 just because they're store picks. And the same thing for these Wathans, whatever, Medley Brothers, barrel proof. I think it's just the store picks. People just think they're unique and go crazy over them.
Well, I actually think that it's a good segue from the MGP. This isn't MGP. This is contract distilled for Wathan. So this is
Barton's,
a little bit
right?
of a mash. What's that?
Does Barton's make theirs, or am I off?
There's all sorts of theories. I think there's people are saying it could be Heaven Hill, it could be Buffalo Trace. I don't know, but I think that's the kind of appeal is you're getting a different mash bill. At least from my perspective, and Wathan's is that you're not getting that MGP. I think they kind of have a lower rye mash bill to theirs, so that's the kind of appeal from my perspective. It's a little bit different than the other store selections and MGPs and stuff like that you would get.
I think Kevin Brinkeroff nailed it in 3 words: barrel proof sells. On the chat. I mean, it's barrel proof. It's how you want it. A different barrel proof. We all want to try it. I think it's that simple.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the barrel proof sells. I actually got an email about this. Somebody saying it was going to be discontinued completely. So, you mix in scarcity. No. Somebody, I don't. It wasn't confirmed. He was asking if I knew, but
was that lens breaking
into barrel proof, and it's pretty well priced too. And I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't tasted it recently, but from what I remember, it was pretty good. So, I think you can hit a good combo, and then you just get, a really popular podcast like Bourbon Pursuit talking about it, and then all of a sudden the stuff blows up. So brands, if you want to sponsor the show, feel free.
I mean, what's the difference between Michter's and Wathan's? Really, they're both contract distilled, right?
Mm-hmm.
One Michter's maybe came in a cooler bottle and got that wax in some of their special bottles.
Well, that's and I mean, I know Willett's now distilling a lot of their own, but it's still at 4 years. But buying Johnny Drum or Kentucky whatever and all that stuff, it's kind of like you're trusting the person who is doing the blending ultimately, I guess. So if they put out some good product, you say, that's.
And you got to remember, they're still getting that from good distilleries too.
Sure.
Whether it's Heaven Hill or Buffalo Trace or wherever it is, it's still a good distillery.
So I'm going to take a cue from Ryan. I'm going to ask a question to the panel as well now, since we can do that. I didn't realize that.
Wait, I didn't know we could do that.
Only new people can do that.
This is a community around thing.
Kenny's not going to allow that shit.
Would you prefer somebody to buy a MGP NDP product at $100, say 10-year barrel proof MGP, or somebody like a Wathan's and or a Michter's that's more around the $50 range, or even say a Bullet barrel proof? Is that a better buy, even though it's a little bit younger? And are you leaning more towards that brand?
I would think, at least for me, well, first off, the jury is still out on whether it's Wathan's or Wathan's.
I kind of enjoy saying Wathan's now. So
this is like the chat is just blowing up of people like saying like WAY thins. Like this is how it then it's
weathers.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So for me, when I think about that question, it's more like where is my head going to be at in regards of availability, scarcity, and really sometimes taste might be third, because when I look at barrel proof Bullet, yeah, sure, it's great, but it's always available, so I'm not chasing after it. If I ever need it, I can just go get it. When you think of the I'm going to go ahead and flip on the other side now. When you think of the Wathans, you think of okay, it's a store pick and it's barrel proof and it's something that I've never had before, so the intrigue is there. However, the stuff around here in Kentucky, you can't freaking keep anything on the shelf, so it's gone already. So I probably would have leaned more towards the Wathans over Bullet barrel proof at that point, even if it is rumored to be 4 roses from Bullet, but that's still never that's us continuing rumors. But
in a perfect world, everything's the same availability, but the reality is when something has different availability, you look at it differently because you might not be able to buy it in a week. And that gets back to everything we're talking about. If you think it's the scarcity sells. I mean, that's a huge marketing play. You can't avoid it. I mean, it's like anything. If you don't think it's going to be on the shelf in a week, you got to make the decision right there. And what do you do?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to take Blake's question before we kind of round it out?
Buy it.
Buy it.
Buy them both.
Buy it. I guess send me a sample, see what I missed out on, because I'm open to trying anything. Got a few. I actually got a sample of Mic Drop in the basement. I got to go try. So perhaps I'll do that Facebook Live on Friday. We'll see what happens. But I do want to finish it up. There was actually one great question that was in the chat, and it was one of Blake's articles that he put out recently. And how about one more additional topic to finish this off, since we're all drinking, we're all having a good time. Blake hates single barrel bourbons. Go ahead, Blake. Why? And let's see if we agree, because I already disagree.
So I hate to paint with such a broad brush, but yeah, I've just had a lot of bad purchases recently with these single barrels. It started with, I won't name too many names, but I think I already put this out there on this year's Parker's Heritage Collection. I had tasted a bottle, really thought it was excellent. Bought another bottle, mediocre at best. It wasn't better than Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Had something similar happen with I think it was a Dusty Henry McKenna. So single barrel has been a problem for a long time. It's really hard to get a lot of really good, consistent single barrels. Even when we're in Kentucky, talking with Brent Elliott and, the single barrel limited edition from Four Roses, it's just tough to get that many barrels in the similar age that are all of similar quality. And not to say that, if it's a single barrel, it can be great. I would agree with that. There's no denying that, especially some of these store picks and that kind of thing. But overall, blending barrels together, letting that be a little more of an art form of blending different barrels together to get a different flavor profile. And the sum being, what is it? The parts being better, or no, the sum being better than the parts. I think that's really where it lies for me. And there's a lot less risk, and I know what I'm getting. So
yeah,
that was the point of that.
I hate single barrels when they're like part of reviews, like in competitions, because you're like, okay, yeah, that single barrel was fantastic, but you have, all these other of that particular brand, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not right.
I know Wade harps on this a lot, Wade Woodard, about these competitions where, it's a single barrel. Brands just pick a honey barrel, send that, and that's not even close to what's actually hitting the shelves. It's hard to really prove that because none of us are sitting at those tables, but it happens because those competitions, they mean something, and those stickers mean something when people are going to purchase.
You might not be able to prove that, but you can't disprove it either.
True.
And it would make sense that why wouldn't you send one of the best ones that you've at least tasted, right? Because they don't taste
I don't know,
all the
Blake.
best necessarily.
Blake, you might want to send some of that barrel number 4 over to the San Francisco
Oh, it's going.
Championship.
I'm scratching out Buffalo Trace and I'm putting Bourboner Round Table.
But still, you were holding a couple of those bottles for me, right, Blake?
Oh yeah, you got it.
I watched the video. It was said in there. That's a right, Brian. That's a legal contract, right?
It's a contract.
It's a contract.
Then you guys can put a tag on it that says double gold.
Yeah. Right. Oh, the double gold is coming. I think we're to like triple platinum gold is the new.
Oh yeah, we'll have the
platinum gold.
It'll be the platinum release, that's for sure. Yeah, and so I guess we'll round it out. So there was a good little hint right there to kind of wrap it. You know, there was the Neat movie release, but there's also going to be the Bourbon Community Roundtable movie release that'll be happening here this weekend or next week as well.
I'll be waiting for my royalty check.
Yeah. So there actually will be a video coming out that kind of featured all of us during the barrel pick. So it should be pretty fun. So look for that. Fellas, I want to say thank you again for joining tonight. Let's go around the horn one more time and let you talk about where you're blogging at, where people can find you at, and if you killed a bottle of bourbon while we were drinking tonight, what were you drinking as well? So, Lince, you started off. Let's have you finish it out right here.
All right, quickly, the bourbonbuddy.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'll try to get this right this time, at bourbon_buddy. And then also, I'm not sure I gave the address of the Cleveland Bourbon Club. It's the clevelandbourbonclub.com, where you can see our blind reviews of different stuff. And I was drinking, actually, it's a good segue, OKI 10-year single barrel pick by the Cleveland Bourbon Club.
Oh,
MGP.
Yeah.
My man.
All right, Brian, you go, since we're gonna go in the same order we went when we first started it.
All right, good deal. Brian with Sippin' Corn. Check me out mostly on Twitter at Sippin' Corn and the Google blog spot at Sippin' Corn. And check out again. I got to say it again. The book coming out in November 2018, Bourbon Justice. And I'm going tonight with the all-time worst label in all of bourbon history, the single barrel small batch. Which is it?
Neither of them mean anything.
Neither of them mean anything. But what means something, if it can be seen, is this is a hard water pick from 2014 that I participated in, and there's that much left, and it'll be gone tonight. And it's just to maybe to Blake's point and to the bourbon community roundtable point of doing these single barrel selections. I mean, it's a fantastic experience. If you ever get the opportunity to do it. And everyone ought to be looking forward to the 2 picks that we did with Bourboner and in the Bourbon Community Roundtable. Great picks. Everyone look forward to it. Thanks again for having me.
I don't know. Barrel 4 kind of sucked.
I loved it.
Just kidding.
The tape will prove otherwise.
All right, Blake.
All right, I'm Blake from Bourboner. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. If you want to check me out, you can find me at bourboner.com. That's BOURBONR. Also, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all your favorite social medias. Tonight, I was trying to look up. I actually finished off this bottle I didn't realize I had for a while. It was Abraham Bowman, however you say that one.
I'm going to go with Bowman. Yeah.
I'm going with Bowman.
Wathens.
I like Bowman.
It was the Merlot finish, which is actually pretty good. I found it in the back of the cabinet and finished that off tonight. So it was pretty good.
Sure, it wasn't the trash. Merlot.
It sounds like
that. Merlot.
It's actually Boo Man.
Welcome to the South. Yeah.
That sounds like it'd go well with Bourboner Eats. You know, that'd be
Bourboner Eats is coming. I'm forgetting all this drinking stuff. I'm just gonna cook for a living.
All right.
I'm Nick from Breaking Bourbon. Check us out on breakingbourbon.com and Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Breaking Bourbon. And tonight I'm actually drinking two different things. I don't know why Blanton's was on my mind for some reason today, but I got a regular Blanton's single barrel, and I got a straight from the barrel. Right, so I haven't had this in a while. I haven't looked at the actual label, but this was dumped on 10/5/2013. So I'm trying to think of when I actually bought this, and I think I bought it in 2015. It's telling me this was on the shelf for some period of time before I bought it, way back when, which I kind of find interesting. And it's the last bottle of Blanton's I bought, so I haven't bought one since this bottle, and I've had it for a while. But I'm enjoying it. Of course, next to straight from the barrel, this is absolutely fantastic. Great stuff. I bought a couple bottles recently and haven't shot for that for a while. But I think, like we mentioned on the last podcast, if you're looking for something great and getting frustrated with the limited release situation, just watch for those Blanton's straight from the barrels. They become available. They're available for a very short time, but when they're out there, they're kind of out there, and you got a chance at it. So,
Yep. And I guess you kind of hinted on it's the new Dusty. All the Dusties are gone. So I guess if you find a bottle that's like a year and a half old on the shelf, you're like, it's a Dusty. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, you can tell.
So guys, I want to say thank you again for coming on. For me, I was drinking had three different ones tonight. So I was drinking a Bourbon's Bistro, 125 proof, 4 Roses. I had a Russell's Reserve pick by Bourbon Cartel. And then I kind of capped it off in anticipation for this week's anticipated release on Saturday, which is the new Old Baldy release that'll be coming from Cork and Bottle up in Northern Kentucky. It's going to have white wax on it, so everybody's going to go crazy. So I want to say...
Dang, Kenny's firing bourbon over there.
Kenny, tell us about that bottle in the back there. You were going to...
Oh, yeah. So we talked about, being... I broke every rule in Wade's book, and I tatered it up pretty hard today. So I saw this and I was like, I don't want it. Like, I don't want this bottle. And then, this is the Old Carter Rye. This is coming from some of the people that were co-owners of Kentucky Al that then came out and started pushing their own brand. This is batch 1, 112.2 proof. So I'm assuming that it is barrel proof. Again, it's a rye, bottled in Bardstown. On the back, it says distilled in Indiana. And the price was, I think, like $160. And it is non-age stated. So there is tater in a bottle, if you could ever imagine. I'm actually going to do a live review of this on Facebook probably on Friday and just try to push it next to some other ones and see if it really holds up. I really hope it doesn't, only because of the price and being non-age stated. But I bought it because I said, screw it. I don't like my money, so let's get into the bottle.
Or did you buy like 12 of them and you're going to be like, oh, this surprisingly won the blind taste test?
No, I just figured I'd buy it and we'll just see what happens. I don't have high expectations. I sat there looking at it for like 2 minutes and I was like, I don't need this. This is dumb. Like, why would I even buy this? And I was like, God damn it, fine. Just give it to me.
Take my money.
Yeah. I was like, just the intrigue killed me, and so I just went and bought it. So I am a sucker for it. So we'll have to see how it all fares at the end of this. But,
just throw the word stitzel-weller in there during that live review.
Yeah.
Awesome. Everybody will buy it.
Find a way.
Because everybody loves the stitzel-weller Rise that came out, right? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So Ryan, go ahead and close us out, buddy.
Yeah, and no one probably cares, but I was drinking.
No, we don't. Just go ahead and close this out.
I was drinking one of my new favorite things, the Little Book. I think it's fantastic. Some people think it's great. Some people don't. I think it's awesome because it's a little different. And I had an Eagle Rare silver dollar pick, which was good. But anyways, thank you all for coming on. Ryan, we're on the Say We League. You can replace Carrie every week from now on. Appreciate everybody listening. This is the most fun we have on the podcast because I don't like being with Kenny by myself. And anyway, just kidding. I'm rambling on. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next time.